Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the Cold Fusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Welcome back to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, and for the first time ever when I've said that, Brad, it's actually correct, because we did the whole intro, and we weren't even live, so sorry about that, everybody. We are now live.
It reminds me of a play, I think, called Greater Tuna, where these two guys do an entire radio broadcast, and then the phone rings, and somebody says, "You haven't turned the transponder on," and like nobody could hear it the entire time. So our previous intro was, it was fantastic. We just didn't click the button.
Yep. And I thought I clicked the button a long time ago. But anyway, so for those who don't know, I'm Gavin Pickin, software consultant for Order Solutions, and another software consultant for Order Solutions is the Brad Wood. So how you doing, Brad?
Wood. I'm just happy to be here, Gavin. Just trying to be a blessing.
Yep. Well, thanks to our sponsor, Order Solutions. They're the makers of ColdBox, CommandBox, ForgeBox, TestBox, and almost every other box out there except for Box.com. Legal reasons. Oh, and Fusebox. You always forget about that one. But yeah.
Legal reasons prevent us from infringing on Box.com's trademarks.
Yes. Anyways. But so thanks to Order for making this podcast possible. And a few ways you can say thanks back to Order Solutions if you want is to like and subscribe to our videos on YouTube. And by doing that, you'll also get updates when we go live. And when we really go live, you'll see it.
As opposed to the fake go lives that we do just for ourselves.
Yep. And then also we have CFCasts, which we'll talk about later, but we have free and paid content available on CFCasts, which is great video content released every week. And then we also have our book from Luis Mojano called 102 ColdBox HMVC Quick Tips and Tricks on Gumroads. The only thing not quick about it is the title. Anyways, but we also have to thank our Patreon supporters because we have 37 amazing people that are providing 84% of the funding for this podcast. So it's been a long way, 103 episodes in, but it's kind of nice that you guys are out there supporting us. And you can find out more information on our Patreon packages at patreon.com/ordersolutions. And we'll tell you about some of the perks at the end when we thank all of our Patreons individually because they're awesome. So. Okay, so news and events. Brad, first up, we have Adobe's Cold Fusion projects page.
I haven't even seen this.
And that's what I was going to ask you, if you'd seen it.
When did this happen?
It happened in the last week. There was a couple things that popped up, and I'm going to share my screen for anyone watching on YouTube. And so
examples to help them get started quicker in their projects.
Yeah, so there's 5 projects right now. So basically, Cold Fusion and JavaScript framework, a cloud library showcase app, the Cold Fusion DAM, which is the part of the document access, and then they got building REST APIs and Cold Fusion Excel. So these are like little started projects for people to sort of play with. The blog post has a little more information on it. The DAM is
what are these? Like just a zip file you download that has code in it, or like what?
Yeah, basically there was an issue with the permissions on the JavaScript frameworks one. But yeah, basically they're just little starter projects and yeah, so Kishore said if you want to add anything else to this page, let him know. So I think it's a good opportunity for some members of the community to sort of get some skeleton frameworks up there.
Can I make a suggestion?
Go for it. Do anything you want.
Use command box. Like seriously, why weren't these just ForgeBox packages? Like why does this exist?
That's why I thought you had some things to say. Kishore!
Why weren't these just ForgeBox packages? We could have created a package type for Adobe if they wanted, though we already have one called projects. It's been there for years. And I mean, you could install it already with the install command, or you could tie it in. We could make a similar scaffolding to ColdBox Create App, which really, ColdBox Create App, when you run it, it literally just downloads a project from ForgeBox and unzips it into a folder, which is basically what these are. They could have packaged these, so much missed potential. They could have packaged these with like a server.json, a cfconfig.json, so these would all just be like, run the scaffolding command, run server.start, everything but no, these are basically like blog posts with a link to a zip file.
Yeah, they do require you to log into the portal to be able to download it and stuff, so maybe that was another reason they wanted people to make sure they had an account and log in. But anyway, it's a good idea.
Gavin? we need to create a generic version of Coldbox Create App, which is really just a wrapper around an install command. This is all it does.
Yep.
We need to create a generic scaffolding thing that can be pointed to any slug on ForgeBox of this type project, which has been around for years, and then start just pushing people to create projects and put them on ForgeBox, and then they can just run the scaffolding command to install them.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to do, like you said, because essentially that's what we do for all our Coldbox stuff right now.
Yeah, because when you run Coldbox Create App, we literally just run an install command behind the scenes that just installs one of 10 different pre-built projects, which are just packages on ForgeBox.
So we should just create an alias that basically makes it look prettier than using Coldbox Create App and just does it.
Well, I'm actually curious how much in the Coldbox Create App command, the scaffolding command and command box is actually specific to Coldbox.
Probably
it
nothing
takes
at all.
The name, which just goes in the box.json. It takes the skeleton, which is the slug of the package you want to install, which could literally be any slug on ForgeBox. It takes the directory you want to create it in, defaults to the current directory, and a net command to create a box.json, totally generic. It has a wizard flag, but all that does is I think it just asks you a few questions.
Yeah, so you can probably build a slim version of it or an alias of it.
Oh, if you write Coldbox Create App -- wizard, it just asks you what's the name of the app, what's the skeleton you want to install, what directory you want to install it in. It literally just asks you for the first 3 required params. Or you could run Coldbox Create my name, my skeleton. There's really nothing Coldbox specific in the Coldbox Create App command, which is ironic.
So what you should really do is make the Coldbox Create App an alias to the Coldbox install package or install project or something.
So here's the thing. When Command Box first came out, servers were like an afterthought. They're like, yeah, we'll do the server thing, but we'll figure that out later. We originally were looking at some of the NPM tools like Yeoman, and Grunt and Grunt and Gulp and Bower and some of that stuff. But Yeoman specifically, Luis and I had looked at, and there were several at the time, like scaffolding commands built on top of Yeoman. They were all about the basic concept of I want to scaffold out a project based on some template, download a bunch of crap and throw it in the working directory. And when we created the Coldbox Create App command, we'd actually talked about should we be creating this more generically, or should we just create something that's just for Coldbox? And at the time, we had just gone with Coldbox Create App as opposed to just some generic scaffold app type command. And I think we had told ourselves we'd come back and revisit it and decide if we should make it more extensible. And we basically never really touched it, so it's just on the same thing. Yeah. But just random bit of history on that. I kind of want to just make an alias for this called just Create App, and you just be like, Create App, and just point to it on ForgeBox. And then watch this. Well, I can't do it because their folder structure is nonsense. I could create a custom code and point in command box that would download the zips from the community portal so we could cross-post them. But their zip file structure is just random. They've got a source code folder and then folders inside of that. Without conventions, it's difficult to do anything with a package manager, which is why ForgeBox pushes at least basic conventions and stuff. Anyway, that's enough of completely hijacking that announcement.
Yeah. Sorry about that, everybody. But long story short, they have a projects page.
I'm not even a bit sorry.
Long story short, though, there's a Cold Fusion projects page, and if you email Kishore, he can add additional projects to that.
Or just sign up for ForgeBox, push your projects there.
Yeah, that too.
It's free and easy, and you don't need to sign in to download.
So maybe you should just email Kishore a link to this episode, Brad, and then we'll go from there. Okay. Well, in case you missed it, the VSCode release party for, I think April's released. I think it was April's. The description on the video was wrong. But anyway, they had the release party today at 8 a.m., so you guys missed it, but it's available up on Microsoft.com. And so we have the link here, which we'll share.
I saw you talking about it, but I did not watch it. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did actually watch some of it. I saw a couple of the cool console features that look pretty cool. They have more basically native console support, and they actually keep track of what the console's doing, have little icons depending on its status and everything. So a little more control there. And then another thing that I saw was the remote hub, which was to link up to GitHub. And so basically you can just point VS Code at a repo and a branch, and you can just edit that branch locally but you could have the same repo open in multiple different branches on your machine, because it doesn't does a full clone and everything. It basically is sort of like a virtual editor, so just like the web IDE that you would do using GitHub, but it's VS Code. So you make all your changes, when you're done, you commit it back to the repo. So it doesn't live on your site. You can't do all the same interactive debugging. There are some limitations, but it's kind of nice to be able to jump into a different branch just to do something with VS Code instead of trying to use the web IDE editor, and some of those things. So those are the two things I saw. I did miss the first part of it because I forgot it was on, and I was busy doing the prep for this, and I was like, oh, whoops. So I watched a little bit as I was doing it. But they do have a Meetup group too. So the Meetup group I'll share as well. So if you guys want to join the Meetup, then you can tell when they're going on and everything. But they usually, every month they have they have basically a monthly recap of what was released the previous month and what they're working on in the current one. So that's pretty cool. I do get a kick out of watching them, and there's all sorts of cool stuff coming our way. So anyway, so that was that. So VS Code release party was today. You missed it, but you can still watch the video. And then we got a couple of reminders for people too. So CommandBox 5.3.0 was released last week, and you've already got a 0.1 coming soon, right?
Yes, I do have a 5.3.1 patch release. If you check out the blog post that we have, I have a whole overview of all of the features. There's quite a few, but there's a small breaking change that shouldn't affect anybody outside of some edge cases. There is a regression that was found on how web aliases resolve relative paths. And we also found after release an incompatibility if you have an old version of the .env module installed. You'll upgrade and you'll get an error when it tries to load. The fix for that's just to manually delete that .env module and reinstall the latest version, and it'll work fine. I actually, in the 5.3.1 release, I have a little, I don't really care for it, but I have a little monkey patch put in place that will allow the old .env module to work, just since it's bitten about 4 or 5 people that had it. Because what happens is people installed .env when it was in the 1.x series. So so 1.9 was the last version of .env. So the 2.x versions of .env works fine. But what happens is people get stuck on that 1x version because CommandBox won't automatically update to another major version. You have to explicitly, tell CommandBox, hey, I'd like you to install the latest version. So there's a fair amount of people that it turns out were still on 1.9 and it wasn't going to auto upgrade, and they just didn't realize it, which is why we have the new outdated command in CommandBox 5.3 that gives you a nice table, and it shows you the current version you have installed, any update that's available that matches your semantic version range. And then it has another new column that says, hey, there's a new major version available, which you're not going to get automatically, but over here, look at me, you might want to go ahead and update to this.
I like that.
And that's to help people, prevent from getting stuck behind a major version and not realizing it. Because those default version numbers are going to be a caret range. If you look in your box.json, you'll see caret 1.9. And that basically means any minor patch upgrades are totally fine, just bring them on in, but a major upgrade CommandBox won't do. And that's how NPM works. That's how all the package managers work. So the onus is on people to keep those major upgrades under control.
Yeah, so in other words, the caret for the 1 point whatever means anything in the 1.x will update automatically, but anything 2 or higher will not upgrade without you specifically saying, hey, give me version 2. Mostly.
What you technically just described is a tilde range. The caret range is a slight modification of what you said that allows for people to do 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and they treat those. So yeah, the caret has that stupid little caveat for people with a 0 major number, but
yeah,
I only know one package that does that. Yeah, so I have 17 tickets already slated for CommandBox 5.3.1. A handful of little fixes, and already a handful of new features and improvements that have been flying in. I've updated a bunch of the Java libraries. I updated the bleeding edge of CommandBox to the Lucy 5.3.8 RC3 with hopes that Lucy 5.3.8, after 11 billion years of waiting, might actually release. I don't know where that's at, because every time I turn around, there's another regression they're trying to chase down. If Lucy 5.3.8 doesn't finally turn stable in the next few days, I'll probably have to just go back to 5.3.7 again, because I don't like to release a a snapshot Lucy build inside the CLI, even though I've been using 5.3.8 for a long time and it's pretty stable. But anyway, we'll see. I really wanted 5.3.8 in the command box 5.3 release, but I can't wait forever for it to release. So anyway, read the blog post if you haven't on the 5.3 release. There's a bunch of junk in there. And anyway, yeah, the 5.3.1 release really. I have a pull request that I need to merge for that from Scott Steinbeck with some little fixes and tweaks we've been doing to the table printer. But outside of that, I'm trying to get that out since it has some regressions fixed in it.
Cool. Okay, sounds good. And then another, in case you missed it, May 1st, bin tray closed down. So basically all of the Adobe Docker images that were available there are all gone. So if you didn't hear that, that's what's happened. So basically they're not available anymore through that. You can go to the ColdFusion downloads page and download them, but you'll have to download a tar file and basically, do all sorts of other steps. There's some links for that. So if you're using their Docker images, we still haven't heard what they're going to do with them and where they're going to put them. So right now it's a manual tar file process. So
they have said that they are working to fix it, whatever that means. So it does sound like this download a tar manually is not their final solution.
Oh yeah, I didn't think it would be.
Well, you never know. You never know. I mean, the blog post that talked about it didn't say, here's an interim solution. It just said, this is how you do it now. And everyone's like, what? So yeah, there was a comment, ironically, not on the official community portal, but on one of the Facebook posts. One of the ColdFusion team members posted saying that they were aware of it and they were working on a long-term fix. I have a feeling this probably boils down to some nonsense in their legal department, giving them flack about finally getting on Docker Hub or something, but we'll see.
Yep.
What they do.
Sure. Okay, so some webinars coming up here. We got a Fusion Reactor webinar coming up May 12th, so that's tomorrow. It's 5 p.m. Amsterdam time, which I believe is 8 a.m. Pacific or 10 a.m. Central time. So it's called Reach for the Clouds with Fusion Reactor. So basically going through the differences between cloud-based and local install and how it works. So that's a cool little webinar. We love Fusion Reactor. We should definitely go check it out if you haven't upgraded to the cloud stuff. It's definitely cool when you're working with Docker stuff. It's much easier to deal with. So I got a couple more reminders here. Adobe ColdFusion certification, the price dropped from $500 to $149. So lots of great content in there, 50 plus videos in that as far as the training goes, as well as a certification and a cool little badge if you get certified to put on their site. But back to webinars. So Luis Mojano did his webinar last week. We're still waiting for the recording to be posted from Adobe. But he said it was a good session, had a lot of great content. He's been working hard. He's done several webinars every week lately, it seems like, for Content Box, and every week he's got a whole bunch of new stuff that he's done with that. So it's going on pretty nicely. So hopefully that all works. But I know he had some issues recording locally in Zoom, but I'm hoping we still get the recording out of it. So I guess we'll see. Otherwise, he'll have to just do it again. So.
All right, sorry, I zoned out for a bit.
Yeah.
Paulina, our marketing expert here at Ortus, had just messaged me. There was a conversation on CFML Slack earlier, and somebody said something like, much rejoicing, and they screenshotted the command box saying server is up. And I said, we need to get some Box Life T-shirts that have like the command box logo and say server is up. And Paulina's actually working on making one of those, which looks completely cool. So like server picture and it says server is up, command box. I really hope they actually put that in the store because that's going to be awesome.
Cool. So new box stuff coming soon.
I know. So while I was completely paying attention to Slack, I saw Daniel put a question here in the chat asking about ForgeBox slugs. Does that need to be answered still?
Yeah, you can answer that.
So Daniel asked if the ForgeBox slug can be at username/package name. The answer is yes and no. We do support, so that's basically how NPM does it, is they have at username/package name, and it actually turns into an extra folder that it puts it in. We have something similar, but we do it slightly different. It's the package name at ForgeBox user. So there's no slash in it. We don't bury it an extra level deep. And that's for private packages. So I'll put a link here to private packages into the chat that shows how those work. So if you create private packages and put them on ForgeBox, then it's going to be whatever the slug is at whatever your username is. And the name of the folder it installs to just matches that. And of course, if it's a private package, you would have to be logged in to be able to do that. Hopefully that answers your question, Daniel.
Cool. Okay, so on top of that, we also have Adobe's API series, which is still ongoing. They're posting the videos as we go, so if you did miss one of the videos, don't worry, because they are adding them all in there. And so far, I think we've had, let's see, the 12th and the 13th, so tomorrow and Thursday are the next two, and there'll be one more on the 24th of May. So we're getting our way through it. So it'll be the 4th and 5th one, no, 5th and 6th one this week. So there's 4 videos already, should be already up on the website. But yeah, Brian Sappy's doing a great job with that there. And so if you're wanting to learn more about building APIs, API creation and management, that series is really good. So I'm going to share those links here in the chat as well. And then next up, I thought maybe you want to talk about this one, Brad. So if someone's wanting to know more about that Command Box 5.3 stuff, you're doing the Audis webinar for May, right? And you're going to cover all sorts of stuff.
That's what they tell me. So I'm putting a chicken into Command Box here to make that generic scaffolding command we were talking about earlier. Don't want to forget about it. Yeah, so our webinar is going to be what's new in Command Box 5.3. And that's slightly a lie, because it's actually going to include everything new in 5.2 and 5.1 as well. The last webinar I did was what's new in 5.0. And so there's basically 3 dot releases full of features that have happened since then. And so I have like 17 screencasts written up that I want to do. And the webinar will be kind of just a condensed version of all the kind of high level new stuffs since the 5.0 thing. So
that's cool. Yeah, because there's definitely a lot of stuff.
That's coming up
soon. Yeah, very cool. So that's going to be May 21st, 11 a.m. Central Time, and that is on a Friday. So you can register now through Zoom, and you can go to the Audis webinar page if you want to find out more about our upcoming webinars or the previous ones too, and they can be found on CFCasts, which is a good segue because now we're going to talk about CFCasts. So we have a few more videos released this week in the Object-Oriented Programming with Nolan Erck series. And so the newest ones there is constructors and pseudo-constructors, object properties, accessors and visibility types, methods, definitions, scopes, public versus private versus protected, package versus static versus remote. So in other words, if you don't understand any of what I just said, those videos will be perfect for you. So, he's got 3 videos that went live this week. We have 3 more coming up this week. So we have releasing should be tomorrow. So VAR scoping, static properties and methods, and encapsulation and cohesion. And don't forget, if you don't have a paid subscription, you can't watch all of these videos from the series. But the first 4 videos in the series that we released last week, or actually the week before, because these ones just went live this week. So the first 4 videos are free. So as long as you have a login to CFCasts, doesn't have to be paid, you can log in and see those first 4 videos. And then if you like them and you want to see the rest of the series, then you can get a subscription and watch all of our great content.
Sounds like you're a bit of a drug dealer there, Gavin. The first 4 are free.
Mm-hmm.
We've laced the
videos.
first 4. Yeah, we've laced the first 4 videos with subtle backtracking messaging that's like, sign up for CFCasts, and you'll have this just irresistible urge.
Yeah,
it'll be great. You'll see.
Yeah, well, Nolan's a great teacher. This looks to be a great series. So I need a little recap on some of my OO skills, I'm sure. So, but if that's not enough for you guys, we have more coming soon.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah, we got more Command Box 0 to Hero. So the last chunk of videos for that series will be coming up there soon. And we have what's new with Cold Box 6 coming up. I know you're working on the Command Box 5.0, what's new with Command Box 5 series. We've got up and running with Quick. We've got Logsbox 101 and using DocBox. So we've got lots of great things planned. Videos are being made for a lot of them right now, so you'll be seeing those start to come out here soon as well. So cfcast.com. I see, again, free account will get you access to a lot of these videos, and then a paid subscription will give you access to all of these videos. So,
boom.
Boom. There we go.
All right.
Dunskies. Okay, so the big news in conferences and trainings is the Adobe Cold Fusion Developer Week. So that's June 22nd to the 24th, and it's going to be online. So I know they're getting the speaker list together right now. They have last year's speaker list up on the site, but we should be seeing some new ones coming up very soon. You can register for free right now, and they're hoping to get over 3,000 attendees. I know last year they had about 3,000 attendees as well, so that's the goal. So I know that they have a lot of good content, 3 days as well, so that's going to be quite a lot of content from them. I'm kind of curious what there's going to be out there. So definitely go check that out. So chat has the link in the show notes as well. And we'll go from there. And I haven't heard anything about CF Summit yet, though, Brad. Have you? No sneak peeks or hints or anything yet?
I have heard nothing.
I did hear something about Adobe's travel policy in the, sort of sneaky from Twitter,
Oh, really?
saying that basically they're not allowed to travel in 2021 just for safety reasons. So if there is a CF Summit later in the year, I'm assuming it will not be in person, just for their.
And that would be very difficult. I know with the team over in India has been dealing a lot with COVID recently.
Yeah,
so
it's terrible in
I'm not.
India right now. So
Yeah, it is. So I'm not one bit surprised if travel is nowhere on their radar.
yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yep. So yeah. So if you want to get a taste of the Cold Fusion conference, looks like the Developer Week is going on now, and I'm sure that CF Summit will probably be announced online later in the year, probably in October, November, like it has been the last few years. So. Okay.
So speaking of the Cold Fusion Developer Week, I don't. Maybe you had this tweet down below. I may be stealing your thunder. I was gonna I saw a reply to it that popped up on Twitter. Ray Camden tweeted earlier saying that he's going to be speaking at it, which is pretty cool. And Sammy Hoda even said replied saying he's expecting to join. So anyway,
No,
some cool conversations today.
They must have happened right after I finished the note. So yeah. So I
one
think
of these tweets just came in like 2 minutes ago. So you guys are getting like a live Twitter stream right now on the podcast.
Yep. So yeah. So like I said, the speakers are being emailed right now. It seems like, and they should be having more information on the speakers and their content in the next week or two for sure. So we'll keep you up to date as we go. But bookmark that June 22nd to 24th. We also have something this week. So we have AWS Summit Online Americas this week. So that's going to be May 12th and 13th. So tomorrow and Thursday for all of those watching live. It's going to be online and free, and it's a great conference. I've been to it in person. They have just tons and tons and tons of content from beginners to expert, and lots of white papers and use cases and user stories. So great content. Go check that out. I'll share the link in the chat for that. And then next up, Google I/O. So Brad, have you actually seen any of the content from the Google I/O before?
No, I haven't. But I hear that it's online and free for everyone.
Yeah, it does sound like it. Yeah, I know that a lot of their services are obviously going to be spotlighted there. So if you guys are using any of the Google stuff, that'll definitely
It's
be
hilarious.
covered.
I totally assumed that their domain name would be google.io, but it's not. It's at google.com.
Yep, google.com/io.
Come on, Google, you've let me down.
So what does Google I/O go to? Anywhere?
I don't know. It's actually events.google.com, which is probably a generic, subdomain used for everything. Google.io goes to nothing.
Oh, man.
It appears that it's registered, but it returns a 404, so it's not in use.
Gotcha.
What
Okay.
if I search Google the site :google.io to see if there's anything indexed on that domain? No.
Nope.
The domain is not in use.
Yep. Okay, so that's going to be
Curious.
May 18th to 20th. So that's next week. And then the week after, we have MS Build. So Microsoft Build, Learn, Connect, and Code, May 25th to the 27th. Explore what's next in tech and the future of the hybrid work. So a
Are
lot
you
of
sure
this
it's
stuff.
not Ms. Build, which is probably clearly Mr. Build's wife?
I think that's
Oh,
inappropriate.
wait, no, Ms. wouldn't be married. Dang it. It says MS Build, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Ms. Build.
So if you go to Microsoft.com/ or mybuild.microsoft.com/home, you'll find out more about it. But they got a lot of good stuff. Obviously, Microsoft Build, or Microsoft now owns a lot of things. So a lot of things that you're using, and as a developer, you're probably like, I can't believe I'm using so much Microsoft products. A lot of people using Teams, a lot of people using GitHub, right? And then obviously VS Code, Microsoft product too. So a lot of
And
good stuff out there.
if you go to build.microsoft.com, it redirects to mybuild.microsoft.com. Why?
Why?
Why do they make us type the extra two
They
characters?
don't. They redirect to make it easy for you.
It's not the link you have in the show notes.
I have my build, don't I? But you see there's some pretty big names on here. I know a lot of people listen to the Scott Hanselman podcast and everything, but a lot of good stuff coming from Microsoft these days, so a lot of good content. It's not just .NET developer stuff, so those of you who are thinking that, I challenge you to check out some of the content there as well. And next up we have DockerCon, and that's going to be May 27th. It'll be a free online virtual event, and again they have a lot of great content. I like the way that they do it, where they split up a lot of the different channels, so they have beginner and I don't know what Kubernetes is to expert stuff, where you have to be a ninja to understand anything they're saying. So they have a good range of content there, something for everybody. And yeah, like Brad said last time, I think we only had one swarm session, so hopefully there's a little more there. We're hoping Swarm lives on because we like it way better than Kubernetes, but we might be biased.
We are biased.
Yep.
I went to the agenda thing and searched. Yeah, still only one Swarm talk there.
It happens, but as long as it's still alive, that's all that matters. And then we have another one. So in June, we have Apple WWDC21. So Glow and Behold. So Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference is going to be online June 7th through 11th. So a lot of interesting things happening there. So looking at Apple platforms, tools, and technologies. And they also have a Swift Student Challenge, apparently. So I don't know too much about that yet. They say stay tuned for details. So if you want to find out more about that, you can go to the developer.apple.com/WWDC21. Okay, so with that, a truly sad announcement is, what were you doing 1 year ago today, Brad?
I believe I was at Into the Box, Gavin.
Yeah,
Into the Box. Physically at, but doing our virtual Into the Box.
Yeah, so last year this time we had Into the Box. Unfortunately, we pushed it back a little bit this year to September. We planned that originally, hoping that maybe we'd be able to travel. We still don't know yet, so probably looking at an online one, but we're blocked in for September. So if we're doing it online, we're going to be doing the Developer Week style, and we're doing the call for speakers here pretty soon. I keep saying that every week, but I really do mean it. It should be soon here. So, and a lot of people are still holding out for in-person, and so we even put a poll out on Twitter the other week about what's everybody's preference.
I was actually going to go check the poll. Do you know what the
I don't know what the link
were?
is. No, I know a lot of people preferred to go in person, but some said preferred online. But we weren't sure if that meant they would go in person if they could go. But anyway, so we're just trying to find out more information because things are opening up. Like even California, which is locked down crazy sometimes. Apparently June 15th, everything's back to normal. We're pretending nothing happened. So, never know. But
well, here we go. I found the poll finally.
And for those of you who had airfares for Into the Box last year, most of the companies have extended them out through March 2022. But if you did have airfares, better check and make sure that they're being extended again, so you can use the flight credit somewhere.
But Luis's poll said, if Into the Box 2021 conference was in person in Houston in September, would you attend? 45.8% of people said yes. 8.3% of people said no. And then 45.8% of people said prefer virtual. So it's sort of split half and half out of the 24 people that have commented on that. So if you would totally come out in person to Houston, there's the link to Luis's completely unofficial little Twitter poll. Yep. Yeah, because Mark Takata had mentioned there as a comment that Adobe, you'd mentioned this earlier, Adobe has a hard stop on any and all travel until 2022. So
yeah, didn't want to call him out by name, but it's okay, you did it. So
I did. I just called him. Oh, he said it on Twitter publicly. So
yeah, I know, but still, this podcast reaches so many more people than Twitter, Brad. Come on. And if you want any more conferences, I'm sharing the link for comps.tech, which has lots of great content information for all these different conferences in all these different languages. So, yep. And Will said, as long as travel from Europe is not allowed, it is not back to normal. That's what he said. So, yep. I mean,
I know. I'm totally like missing CF Camp. I'm bummed.
I know. I mean, seriously, like I was actually planning. I'd even talked to my wife. We're booking stuff or thinking about booking.
Yeah.
And then, of course, COVID
You had
happens.
said you were going to go to the next CF Camp. It was going to happen, and then...
I know, because I keep talking about it, and I'm finally like, yep, we're going to do it. I've figured it out, and then, nope. Sorry. All went sideways. That's the reason COVID happened. Just keep me out of Europe.
CF Camp pulls from so many different countries. It's really going to take a while probably to be able to have travel be open from everywhere they need to. But
yeah. Yep, for sure. But
hopefully soon.
Anyway, so we'll be online for sure in September. We'll do the call for speakers soon. I know that we just keep waiting and waiting, hoping for the best. So, anyways, okay. Well, let's talk about some blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So first up, we have one from Pete Freitag. And this one here is basically just a little update because I think May 1st, TLS 1.3 is now the supported standard. So 1.2, 1.1, 1.0 have all sort of been killed off. And so if you want Java version supporting it, this is the place to look. So Java 8 TLS 1.3 support is for 8U261B12 or greater. And so basically have something since July 14th. And for Java 11, it looks like at least 11.08. So,
on that note, I think in the Lucy 5.3.8 release, there's a ticket related to adding support for TLS 1.3. I don't know what that means as far as what that took inside the Lucy source code, but the TLS 1.3 jogged my memory on that. So anyway, if you're using Lucy and you have any problems with that, it might be worth noting that the 5.3.8 release has some tickets in regards to that.
Cool. We have a video from Fusion Reactor on the Fusion Reactor dashboard. So if you want to find out a little bit more about Fusion Reactor and how it works, they've got a video on their site. Latest blog post from them.
Nice.
And then now we get into the Ben Adel show. So he's got a couple different series this week, so we'll get started with this. I make fun, but I would like Ben's content. It's always got something interesting and new. Okay, so in this one here, he's talking about creating page breaks in CF documents without using CF document item. For those of you that don't know, if you use the CF document tag, usually it basically just creates a big page, and if you wanted to break content into separate pages, you would usually use a CF document item and the type of page break, and that just basically separates the content out for you. In a previous blog post that we'll talk about later, because we do it in reverse order, he talks about trying to optimize the PDF document because it envisioned they generate tons and tons of PDFs. And so what he's trying to do there is he's actually compiling all the HTML separately, and then he basically reads it into the PDF document as one big thing. So he's not building it on the fly. So therefore, document tags, you can't add this CF document item tag in the middle of it because he's building HTML. So what he's done is actually uses some CSS. So page
the irony is,
before.
I think the CF document item tags just add like textual placeholders that the PDF library looks for.
Oh really?
I'm not 1,000% sure on that. See, I was aware of this CSS workaround, but only because Scott Steinbeck had used it in the Gitbook exporter module we wrote. We had unrelated issues with CF document item due to some Lucy bugs that I think have been fixed since then. And instead, we did all our page breaks with the CSS stuff. We did page numbers. We did all kinds of crazy stuff with CSS.
Yeah, you can do a lot with it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, the version of the Flying Saucer PDF that Lucy 5.3 started including has really good support for some of these crazy CSS-based attributes, which is super handy for doing fancy schmancy PDF stuff.
Yep.
So I'm glad to see Ben blog this.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty neat. And yeah, I had used it before for a similar issue just because you can't always know exactly when to shove a CF document item into something. So in his one, he just had basically put a class on a div that he always wanted on a new page, and that worked.
Mm-hmm.
So next up from Ben, we have another CF content one, and he found some new features. Did you know about these ones, Brad? So
Probably. I don't know. I haven't read this post yet.
so CF save content. He was
Oh yeah,
basically
I saw this. I don't know if I knew about those.
yeah.
I
So
saw this the other day.
so he was going to add a file attribute. So if you do CF save content, it could output it to a file. And then when he was doing that, he pulled up the docs and found out that they also have a trim option and an append. And the trim one makes sense, just gets rid of any space before and after, no big deal. But the append one was kind of interesting. So basically, it'll just keep adding to the same variable. So if they have the same variable, in the example he has save content variable data, and so he has a line of code, and the next save content has another line of code, and he just keeps append equals true onto it, and basically he outputs a poem one line at a time. And so I was thinking this might be kind of neat when you're reading lines from a Java line reader or something, something like that, where you're basically bringing in something in from a buffer or whatnot.
Interesting idea. Yeah, because
just
a lot of
something.
people use CF save content because if you just do string concatenation, which is what we first think of as Cold Fusion developers, a lot of string concatenation inside of a loop can use tons of memory and can be slow.
Very.
Yeah, I don't know if I knew about these features, but I know I've never used them. So, put that in the category of cool little stuff that Lucy does that I'm pretty certain Adobe doesn't do. Let's actually see if CF Docs even lists those arguments. Nope. So CF Docs actually doesn't even show those Lucy specific attributes. We had something on the last show I found was the same thing. So you're looking to submit a pull request to CF Docs. That page right there needs updated with those attributes right there.
Yep.
Boom. Go do it. Who can submit that pull first?
Yep, for sure.
I use CF Docs primarily, but I always keep the Lucy docs on speed dial because there's quite a few little things like that, little fancy features that have snuck into Lucy that haven't necessarily been added to CF Docs.
Now, the Lucy docs are generated off of the actual CFCs themselves, right?
Well, it's not a CFC, first of all.
Well, yeah.
Internally, there's a giant FLD file, which is basically XML, which is used to define most of the built-in tags and functions. The Lucy docs were originally generated off of that. I'm a little confused on how it works because the Lucy docs diverged a bit from the comments and the descriptions inside the FLD files, which is what you see in like error messages and things. And Zach Spitzer could probably answer this fairly easily. I'm not sure. I think there's some process he has to be able to merge in new, like missing functions from the Lucy source code. Once they're merged in, I don't know if they get updated.
Gotcha.
Because they're stored separately in Markdown files. Right, but you are correct that the initial import into the Lucy docs did come from the actual Lucy source code. But now it all lives in Markdown files in the repo. Very similar to, well, not that similar. Somewhat similar to CF Docs, which is more JSON.
Interesting. Okay, so next up, we have a blog post from Adam Cameron. So in this one here, he's trying to get MariaDB working with Cold Fusion 2021, and as he says, for the life of me, couldn't find this information anywhere or in the docs. Couldn't find it on Google either. So basically, he figured out from Lucy, docs, and some other places how to set that up. So he's got a nice blog post walking that through. So if you're using 2021 and you want to see how to get the JDBC driver for MariaDB working, you can go ahead and check out that blog post from Adam Cameron. Okay. Next up, we have a blog from Ray Camden, and this one is actually one of his Vue Js articles, but I thought it was pretty relevant because I know a lot of us Cold Fusion developers use Vue. So, and I'm biased. I think it's kind of interesting. So this one's kind of, something different. And a lot of people with front-end applications, you work on stuff, change all these variables, and, it's really hard to get a shortcut deep into the actual the search that you're working on. And so this one here, he talks about updating and supporting URL parameters with Vue Js. And so basically he uses another little library in here from what I can tell from the source code, Vue URL. Maybe that's his actual hard-coded file. anyway, the long story short is that, basically anytime you change the query parameter or a search parameter filter, it basically mirrors them. So that way, if you start typing a search in your search box, it'll update the URL. So at any point in time you copy paste that URL for somebody, they'll be able to jump back into the app to the same basically point in time that you were looking at there. So
basically deep linking.
Yep, deep linking, storing the state right in there, and it's not actually, it's all inside the client, so it's usually a little harder to do. So, but yeah, he works through it.
My main takeaway is if these are all like real people and animals that he knows, and if so, does he really have a cat named Pig? That's my takeaway.
Yeah, with Ray Camden, you would never know. I guess you'll have to ask him.
If it was named like a Star Wars name, I'd be like, definitely, 100%, has to be for real. But who knows?
Yep. So another front-end related one from Benny Dow. He's basically using something that Angular's been doing for years to try and make his ColdFusion code look a little bit cleaner. So I don't know if your code looks like this or not, Brad, but basically, if you've got classes, you're looping through a list of something, and basically, you might have something where you have a class and then basically throw in a whole bunch of other things like, if the scheduled day is an active deployment, then have this class on it. Otherwise, have that class. If it's today, have this class and that class. And
inline if on your styles.
Yeah, and basically have a big old mess. But like Vue and Angular,
yeah, he has like a really, really complicated one.
Yeah, but like Vue and Angular and stuff, a lot of them have basically like an ng class or a colon class, and then inside of that, you could basically have like a little structure, and depending on variable settings.
The key of the structure is the class you want to apply, and the value is a Boolean, which turns on and off.
Yeah,
or it's probably an expression that evaluates to a Boolean.
Yep,
that's nice. Now, to be fair, he could have put line breaks in his first example, right?
He could have.
He wrote that all on one line to make a bit of a point, but I mean, it didn't have to be on one line, did it?
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I assume a class attribute. I mean, I know it's just a bit of a straw man to be like, those like made for TV commercials, and they're like, "Do you hate organizing your pantry?" And it shows this like little kind of straw man video of like black and white, and some idiot that's like, "The can won't go on the shelf." Use our new product. And then all of a sudden it's like full color. I mean, the previous version didn't have to be that bad, but I get it. It's
yeah, no, I get what you're saying too. So this one here, you have an ng class and you have a struct, and like you said, spread out that way. And so what he's basically doing is he created a new function called encode class attribute. And so what he's doing there is calling that and passing in an array, and
right. So he basically mimics the mimics the syntax, but just with a nice little ColdFusion wrapper.
Yep, and then he's got the code to do it and loops through it, and and he has an isTruthy, and he actually created a function isTruthy, and then it created a function for isFalsy, so it could be the opposite.
He created a function called isTruthy. I'm curious what it does and how it's different than ColdFusion's if statement.
Well, so basically, Truthy is not isFalsy, and so isFalsy, if it's null, it returns false. Which, does that happen in ColdFusion?
Oh, so he's expanding Truthy and Falsy on top of what CFML does.
Yep.
I see. So null is
false. Falsy.
Wait. Is it though? I'm reading his isFalsy one.
Yeah, so
I hate it when people use negative logic.
isTruthy.
I would have created isTruthy, and then I would have made Falsy just simply be not isTruthy. Because then you end up with double negatives, which I really hate. So his function is isFalsy, so null is Falsy. Not a simple value is not Falsy, which this is why you don't do negative logic. Meaning if it is a simple value, then it's Truthy.
Yeah, that's weird.
I'm not following that. This is really confusing. And then if it's a Boolean and it's not numeric, if it's a Boolean or it's not numeric, then
return the value.
The opposite. You're making my head hurt, Ben. Don't do negative logic. It's like a grammar Nazi. Everything's not, maybe not, sometimes, doesn't, always. That's what this function is.
Long story short, it makes it work. So that code would then generate the classes you want. Basically, nice and easy. And again, it's up to you. I mean, this is a nice little clean wrapper that Ben designed. it's kind of nice. But as you mentioned, if you'd put the Cold Fusion on separate lines, you could have the class that it was always there on one line and all these Cold Fusion lines underneath, and it wouldn't be terrible. But it's just different. So, but yeah, just again, a lot of things you could see elsewhere, you can build it in Cold Fusion, you can apply it, and kind of a cool little, thought experiment. That's what I like about most of them. They're sort of just different ways to attack the same problem, and makes me think
I'm a little
about some of my
surprised
stuff.
to use the CF loop tag, and he didn't just filter and reduce the array directly. As hardcore as Ben is into the typical JavaScript functional programming, I'm a little surprised to see the CF loop tag here. Now he does have the nice, script-based syntax of it, which of course is kind of cool.
Yep. Okay. So the next one up, Ben is talking about using source file and CF document item in the same doc. And so this one here is basically the pre blog post using saved content, generating lots of PDFs. And so what they want to do is generate the HTML by itself, and then use the CF document item essentially for the header. So he's working through sort of combining them. So the body itself would be rendered into rendered from a variable, and then as you loop through, you can actually use document items for some of it, and then dump out some of the source as well. So it was kind of nice, but basically he's mixing up, and as he said, he's not sure if it actually helps the resource consumption at this point, but he's sort of working through that process. So, but a lot of times I'll do that too, where a lot of the templated stuff, any of the title pages or headers, I'll try and pre-generate that into a PDF, and then just include the PDF inside my other PDF, because you can do that. And then that way you're not regenerating the HTML over and over, because I'm assuming on a 100-page document or whatever, that can add up pretty quick.
Interesting.
So this was something I thought was pretty interesting too. His next one, validating and documenting complex object structures with CFParam and Lucy. So this is something I was thinking, I wonder if Brad's tried this. Or this is something you've used
No,
before.
I was aware you could do it. I've never necessarily done it like he does it, but it's kind of interesting. I mean, honestly, if I wanted like a robust validation solution in my Cold Fusion apps, I would use CB validation, which I would just drop into my Coldbox framework, and I could probably use it. But this is a kind of a cool little bare bones thing, just using CF param. Because, a lot of people, myself included, just typically use CF param purely just to create default values,
Yep.
if the variable doesn't exist. But one kind of pretty cool thing about CF param is you can also say it has to be this type as well, which saves, you actually write in an if statement about it. And so, he just has a bunch of params where he just drills down and hits all the keys of a struct and says, this has to be numeric, this has to be a string, this has to be a date. And he sort of, just builds out the entire structure of what needs to exist. Now, this is where the Java developers would kind of point and laugh at us. And they'd be like, you silly Cold Fusion developers, this is why we have classes and objects with built-in members that have types, and you don't pass individual little structs and vague arrays. You pass magical objects. But, I mean, it is what it is. So,
Yeah.
I think it's a cool, nice little trick.
Yeah, so that was just kind of neat. Basically gives you a nice error, so... Yeah, and he does mention he doesn't do this all the time. He does, to be clear, but it's something he does do sometimes, and it's self-documenting.
It would probably depend on, like, if this was an API other developers were using. Because I'll be honest, most of the time I write a function that accepts, like, an array of structs where each struct is expected to have these keys. I kind of just assume it's going to be there. And I'm like, well, if you leave a key out, it's going to blow up, you loser. Right. I don't typically always go through the effort of validating that. I'll just put a big like comment at the top of the function that's like, hey, idiots calling this function, make sure you pass the data in like this, because I'm just going to assume it's right. I don't typically go out of my way unless I'm feeling rather generous. Or maybe I'm doing something that's like an actual part of the Coldbox framework and you want to help, guide them. Because, I'll be honest, sometimes I'm like, I'll just let a runtime exception tell them that they did it wrong. But this is probably definitely a better experience to be able to say explicitly, you left off the name parameter, which needs to be a string.
Yep. Exactly. Instead of just blowing up saying name doesn't exist. Then and you add it, and like, oh, that's not the right thing.
That's the poor man's validation.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, CB validation allows you to store similar types of things in a struct format, and yeah, you can reuse it
Yeah,
too.
yeah. If I want to do anything hardcore, I'd drop in CB validation. But it's good to remember what the language does by itself.
Yep. And as Vil said, he doesn't like CFParam because it can't validate integers, only numeric, because it uses cold fusion types, which, yeah,
Yeah.
integer is not a
If you
type.
wanted to reject a decimal explicitly, all we have is just a numeric.
Yep. Good point, Vil. Okay, so up next we have a little blog post from Charlie, basically just reiterating the price change on the Adobe CF certification. But the reason we included it, as well as what we had in the news, is that there's information too about why the certification is useful, what the training covers, and everything. So the CFLI podcast and has a transcript basically talking about it when it first came out, what's included, what topics, etc. So if you want to learn a little bit more about it, you can also check out this here. Basically the quality and everything else about the program. So anyway, so if you want to find out a little bit more about it, this blog post sort of gives you a few links to be able to do that. So I definitely think that's worth doing. We were actually TAs on that at CF Summit in 2019, and it was a good,
that was
some
a
good
crazy
content.
day.
Yeah. So we helped Nolan TA that. There was quite a few people. They had over 100 people that day doing the workshop, and I think
it was huge.
Yeah, I mean
the workshop went really well. What didn't go well was the internet. When 150 people all tried to download like 100 megs worth of assets, and we were running around with USB sticks. That was a good day.
Yep, lots of fun. Yeah, the good old days when you actually had in-person stuff.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember back when.
Too funny. Okay, well, that wraps up our
jobs?
blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. So yeah, let's talk about jobs. So right now, Get CFML Jobs has over 120 positions since December. Although last week there were a whole bunch of the same job shown in multiple places. So I don't know if it really
they probably
counts.
posted it in multiple cities.
Yeah, so this was a remote LATAM and a whole bunch of different spots.
Yeah, you can tell it's the exact same job description, but with a different city name in it.
Yeah, but there are 4 new ones. So we got a Cold Fusion developer with 4 to 6 years of experience in Mumbai and Bangalore, India. We have a Suncorp Insurance in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia for a Cold Fusion developer. We got a Cold Fusion developer in Vancouver, BC, and another one in Karnataka, India. So a bit all over the place this week. But
I wonder if I know what company the one in Vancouver is from.
And then we have the Cold Fusion developer if you have secret clearance at Gentilly, Virginia.
Secret clearance. We could tell you what this job is, but we'd have to kill you.
Yep, so there's some good content there. If you're looking for a job, that's a great place to start. Get cfmljobs.com, and you can actually post your company stuff there, and that also does scrape some of the other big job sites out there, so you may want to look at that. But I think the latest one just popped up since I did the show notes. Whoops. So anyway, more good stuff there. So if you're looking for a job, good place to go. Okay, next up, our ForgeBox module of the week. So this week we're actually doing one by Matthew Clemente because he's always got something else to do. He never gets bored.
Facebook conversions. Is this new or just been around for a while?
Yeah, it's a new one. So this is just released April 29th. So it's Facebook conversions. And so basically it's a CFML wrapper for those Facebook conversions API. And so what it allows you to do is basically, and the only method it has, is to basically send events to Facebook. So what you can do is send it through the conversions API, and you can send a Facebook event. You send the name, the source, the user URL, the email,
what is
phone.
the Facebook conversion API? Because I've missed the boat on what the crap that means.
So that works with the pixel ID, so you know the Facebook conversions where they retrack you and everything else. So
you have conversions in the context of like sales, like you convert a sale.
Yeah. So
so this is like tracking revenue that you get based on like Facebook ads or something.
Yeah, well, you can use the Facebook pixel on your site, and then when people go there, it tracks that they were there, and then basically as they go to Facebook, you can retarget them with Facebook ads saying, so when you go to Amazon,
third-party cookies. This is why you have to accept those little dirty third-party cookies.
Yeah, stuff like
tricky.
that.
So I didn't even realize Facebook had the service.
Oh yeah, the Facebook pixel's big. Yeah.
Like, who in the universe, literally, the last human I know who's not a child, who doesn't have a Facebook account, signed up for one last week. So I
Oh.
literally don't know that I know any adult humans without a Facebook account. So guess what you have on your browsers, people? You have cookies from the Facebook.com domain. And
Yeah.
wherever you go, ooh, Facebook Pixel, that can have access. And that site may not know who you are, but Facebook does.
Yeah.
Creepy, creepy.
And
That's
that's the,
pretty cool then.
yeah, but I mean, like I said, everyone hates advertising, but I'd much prefer to have advertising that I want. Like if I actually go to a site and I'm looking for something, and if I'm on Facebook and I'm going to see an ad, I'd rather see something that I actually might want than just random crap I don't want, or even worse, inappropriate stuff I don't want to see. So, like
What cracks
everyone
me up
hates
is
it.
when I get ads for something I've already purchased.
Yeah,
I
that
My
too.
wife got a little like batting thing to help my daughter learn how to bat better in softball, and I went and watched their little intro video, and then started getting ads all over Facebook. I'm like, I already have it. I purchased it. I'm a customer, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I've been tagged by the Facebook conversion pixel of doom,
Anyway, so
destined to see those ads for years.
yeah, a lot of the people I know have left. As James Moberg said, that people on Facebook, they're sick of it. All the everything. Anyway, we'll get
Uh,
into that political nightmare.
yeah, I love and hate it. It's like I would leave if I wasn't so darn lazy.
Yeah, I keep it because I have some family that live far away that I still want to keep up to date with, and it's the easiest way to keep up with
Yeah,
photos and
exactly.
stuff.
Yeah, it is like
That's
the
it.
only contact I have with a lot of family, which is why one of the things that keeps me from just getting rid of my account. But
Yeah.
all right, well that's cool.
Okay. Yep. So next up,
Nice work on that new little module.
yeah. So next up, we have something here, and this is for people like me that are just terrible with accented characters. So this is actually one that James Moberg recommended in his list of extensions that he uses. So the
Accented characters.
yes, accented character converter or replacer. And so basically, when you're typing and you have all these different accents, and you throw them into your site, and you don't know what all the characters actually are, so you can't use the HTML replacement. So it'll just allow you to replace all those special characters. And so, obviously, if you're working with different languages, a lot of times they'll have all these different accents that I'm not aware of what they are, what they mean, what they do, and I can't even type half of them when I am trying to use them. So I'm terrible at that. But this will just let you basically, replace them with the appropriate character. So
The HTML escape. That's nice.
yeah, and it's kind of cool that they actually list all the ones they do support as well. So this would be kind of nice if you're building a CMS or something that we need to look at these characters and convert them, so we don't have those weird things popping up, from the database. And
Does it say if it works on paste as well as typing?
I'm not sure. It's a pretty new extension. It's only had
I would
8,000
assume so.
installs, but they're actually looking. When I scrolled to the bottom, sorry everybody that I'm scrolling so fast, but they're
I'm getting dizzy.
But they're talking about being able to just replace stuff by text and selections and whatever. So there's a few options on it right now.
It has like the little trademark. So does it do word smart quotes? That's what everybody wants to know.
Yeah, that is a good question. I'm not sure
Like,
about that one. I know there's another
the
extension
most
James
common
has.
annoying Unicode character that sneaks into your source code, oh my gosh, is when you copy and paste from that Word doc that the marketing team sent you, and it has those idiotic little word smart quotes, and then next thing you know, the bomb's not set in your file, or the file encoding's screwed up, and you're like, oh no, why do we have weird question marks on the homepage of our website? It's the word smart quotes.
And the funny thing
that's
is,
ever happened to me before, but
it does happen quite a lot. I do understand that. I've seen it before. But the other thing I've noticed too is when you copy code into Slack and you paste it out of Slack, Slack also does weird stuff with your code sometimes with quotes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've noticed that. I don't know if they fixed it recently, but we used to use them for workshops, and I would copy and paste code into Slack, and so often it would come out and it would break someone's code because of some character, and it was mainly
yeah,
weird.
definitely. Yeah, I've run into that a few times. So you copy and paste a bit of code, and they're like, "I'm getting a syntax error," and it looks perfect, but it's got a quote or a backtick or something got fiddled with.
Yep. And so for that, James Moberg has auto hotkey snippet to sanitize smart quotes.
That's
so
nice. I like that.
Yeah. So that is another pain point. We'll have to add that to the list for next time.
James,
maybe.
is that in VS Code that you had that? If so, you should send us a link to where that's defined, and that can be our tip and trick next
He
week.
actually had a blog post of all his extensions, so I actually have
Oh,
that at the bottom of my list of VS Code things, and quite often I'll go through it and grab some. So yeah,
there you go.
so let's say a lot of the ones we've been using lately are some from James, because he's got a whole bunch that I'd never even heard of before. So, but that was our VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week, and I didn't change the screen. Whoops. But anyways, so yeah, so thanks James for recommending that one. Okay, so next up we have our Patreon supporters, and I know you mentioned Will last week, but he's our latest Patreon supporter, and we didn't spotlight him enough, I don't think. So it did take an extra week, I think, to get him up on the website because we're a little behind with our marketing stuff. So we apologize.
Yeah, I see we have how to pronounce his name written out here in the show notes.
He actually sent me a website.
Bruheim.
So it's Vil de Bruin. And that's not perfect, but it's a whole lot better than Bruin, like I
Interesting.
kept saying before. So
Yeah,
I've listened to
Vil
the
de
video
Bruin.
a couple times, Vil, and I'm still not doing it right, but I'm bitter.
Wait, he
So
sent you a video to show how to pronounce it?
he sent me this site, and Fova, I think it is. It's basically, and there's a Dutch pronunciation of his name, and he said I'm close, so that's bitter. But so yeah, I'll find it too, and I'll share that. So for everybody out there, we'll share you the link and how you say his last name.
Nice. Wait,
So
it's this
listen
Dutch
to-
surname that means the brown? One of his ancestors apparently had brown hair, according to Wikipedia. Nice.
Don't know, but yeah. So
I
with
thought
that being
Wikipedia
said,
would have a pronunciation.
yeah. So he's one of our Patreon supporters, and now we're up to 37 Patreon supporters thanks to Vil. And so these
Oh,
individuals
I
are.
see an alternate spelling, Bruijin.
Oh,
That makes a bit more sense. The without the J is probably a simplified spelling, is my guess.
yeah.
See, I'm learning new stuff every day. This is my new thing for the day.
Yep. So these individuals are personally supporting our open source initiatives like CommandBox, ForgeBox, Toolbox, Codebox, ContentBox, TestBox. Toolbox isn't there, but it should be. But anyway, obviously our cloud infrastructure, ForgeBox, all the package management stuff that is done with CommandBox. So they're doing a lot of great things and helping us with a lot of things, including this podcast. But so if you're a bronze package or up now, you get a ForgeBox Pro and a CFCast subscription as a perk for being your Patreon for your Patreon subscription.
Yay.
If you're any other level, so lower level than bronze, well actually all levels, you will also get a profile badge on the Audis community website, and you also have your own private forum access on the community website too. So there's some little perks for being a Patreon supporter for us, thanking you for thanking us and supporting us. So
And if you become a diamond supporter, we just give you the keys to Ordis.
yeah, so then you can help with all the pull requests and documentation updates. And you're like, wait a minute, what? Anyway, so let's go through and thank our Patreon supporters. So thanks Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, David Bellinger, Gary Knight, Giancarlo Gomez, Jonathan Perret, Mario Rodriguez, Jeffrey McGee from Sunstar Media, John Wilson from Synaptrix, Yogesh Mithur, Joseph Lamory, Ben Nadal, Brett DeLine, Calvin Stenton, Charlie Earhart, Dan Carr, Daniel Garcia, Didier Lesnicki, Edgardo Cabezas, Jan Yannick, Jason Diger, Jeff McLean, Jeremy Adams, Jonas Erickson, Jordan Clark, Kai Koenig, Laxma Tiruhadi, Leon Ceramelis, Matthew Darby, Matthew Clemente, Mingo Hagen, Patrick Flynn, Ross Phillips, Scott Steinberg, Stephanie Mongi, Stephen Klotz, and Vil de Bruin. Did I say it right again? I'm still going to mess it up, but getting him closer. So, but we do thank you, Vil. He's not only is he a Patreon supporter, but he helps a lot with a lot of projects and pull requests and documentation, like a lot of our other supporters do. So not only financial supporters, they're just good Audis community members as well. So we thank each and all of you, and especially our Patreon supporters. So I know that we couldn't do it without you guys, and we're grateful that we can continue doing this every week, because this is helping us keep up on the news, right, Brad? Because sometimes these blog posts go flying by, these tweets, and it keeps us up to date.
Oh yeah, who has time to sit and watch Twitter? So we'll do it for you.
Yep, exactly.
We'll let you know
Okay.
if you've missed anything.
Yep. So very cool. Appreciate everybody. Thanks everybody. Have a great week. And don't forget, there's a couple of conferences going on this week. So go check those out. And we'll see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernize.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.